I don't know if you've been following in Israel. There's a move to essentially kind of reduce the increase the executive branch's power over the judiciary, basically. And there's a lot of protests going on right now around that. Huge protests and a bunch of civil strife around that. But it's a move of essentially Netanyahu and the right there is to take more control and to be able to prevent the judiciary from checking them essentially. And what we have also here in this recently, they have what in the state where the prosecutor who's in Georgia, who may soon be prosecuting Trump for trying to for campaign violations, essentially for trying to kind of gin up votes in that state and for breaking campaign laws. And she may pursue it as racketeering. I mean, now the Republican Congress there is trying to say like, oh, we're going to now give our Congress the ability to essentially fire prosecutors, uh, and um, and it's obvious why they're making that move now. And so it does begin to you do start we're in this period of time where when we talk about authoritarianism, there's a move to try to break down the barriers of executive power and then grab the reins of executive power and rig the voting system in
And
such a
close
way,
the door
or at
behind
least
them. Yeah.
to take power. Yeah. And so, and it's, I think that's always a risk. I mean, that's always going on all over the world. That's just, there's always going to be people who want to try to take power. And so democracies always have to deal with them. The problem that we have now is we have so much division after all of this, Newt Gingrich style divisive politics for these 50 years now almost, combined with the problems that we have with racism, combined with the vast aggregation of wealth into a few people's hands, who it's almost irresistible to use that and to gain their own advantages or what they want. And it's like this whole thing with our money in politics. We have a system where it's cheaper for a company to give campaign contributions and get laws changed to their benefit than it is to create a new product by orders of magnitude, right? And much less risky too. And so, we have these incentives and we have this kind of problem that we face. And what's helped us in the past was a general, I think, sense of almost like there was enough people who were like, no, that's bad, that's wrong, right? Like even in the civil rights movement, and there was a fair number of Republicans who supported it and who made, there was a time when the Republican Party would do stuff and participate in bipartisan things that were, and they still do, obviously, there's still bipartisan laws that do get passed. So I'm not trying to say there's none. But I think um, it's gotten to where people are like, I would have never thought that so many people would be fine with what happened on January 6th, or that you'd have people who would think that it would be fine to overrule the judiciary, to like say, no, it's fine for DeSantis to, or whoever, to put to judiciary doesn't agree with him. Well, then squash the judiciary and take away their power. And there's always been a component of America that would be in support of that, but I think it's grown, and that is what is very worrisome.
I wonder if it has grown or if like I feel like a lot
Or
of
it's just more
people.
visible.
Yeah,
Could be.
and I also think that a lot of people just they don't know what's going on. I think that there's a lot of,
Sure.
I think there's like just a vast amount of ignorance about what's happening right now. And it's not really going to fully come to light for, the vast majority of Americans until they start feeling it in some way, right? Until,
Sure.
their kid uh, gets in trouble for bringing a book to school or something, or like until um,
Right.
they're being taught something about slavery that their parents are like, "What is this?" Or like, something has to happen. I
Right.
feel like at this point,
Yeah,
what
that's like the
Uncle Max,
pendulum
what's
shift
up?
thing, right? It's where I agree. The vast majority of people don't pay attention. Like I'm, you and I are probably massive, massive, massive outliers in terms of
Exactly.
how much we think about and care about and read about issues, politics, and so on and so forth. I think, I mean, even among my friends who are educated and professionals and don't even really pay much near as much attention as I do.
Exactly, because we know how important it is. We can see the writing on the wall to a certain extent, and we're dedicated to trying to find solutions and to improve the situation. I think that that's
Yes.
what makes the difference. Is our 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 gaze is focused on it because we see the impending doom. I feel like a lot of people feel it, but they try to push it aside. We lean into it because we want to do something about it. So I
Yeah.
think that's a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. What people can do about these kinds of things. And like, there's been times I thought, well, maybe I should stop being a business owner and instead be a politician. Or I've thought, well, maybe like work in nonprofit, uh, advocacy, right? But it's hard, right? The idea of working nonprofit is like you don't make money working that. And I always felt like, well, geez, if I just got my company big enough and sold it and had enough money to kind of retire on, well, then I could devote my life to advocacy, right? And act and education. And it's interesting. I really thought when I first, when I started my career path, the reason I went down the path I did, which is making digital media, and now for the last 17 years, it's all been about ebooks. And but the reason I went down the path is because even in college, I thought about these issues and I was concerned about these issues, and I wanted to do something about it. And I thought, well, the thing that we need to do is we need to educate the masses. That's the solution. Education, education, education. I'm like, how do we bring massive education to the masses? And I was like, well, we're going to need to use digital media because books are too expensive. And hey, and this was like, mid 80s. And I was like, yeah, there's this internet's going to be a big thing and digital media is going to be a big thing. And so we need to use this digital media to reach everybody because it could reach everybody and they could have all the information at the Library of Alexandria at their fingertips, which we have. The problem is people don't want to read the
Yeah,
Library
people don't
of
want to. People,
Alexandria.
yeah, people. I don't know if it's just like people don't want to, but like there's a lot of fear associated with seeking knowledge. Actually, that's what I found as an instructor.
Hmm,
There's a lot of fear involved in learning in general.
really?
Yeah, because there's a lot of fear in discovering truth. I think,
Hmm,
like a lot of times when you discover truth, it means that something you already believe has to change.
uh-huh.
I think that there is a substantial increase in people's like fear of changing their minds that I have perceived over time.
Hmm,
I don't know why that is. Maybe it's people watching too many Ben Shapiro videos where he never admits that he's wrong and just tries to bulldoze over people and tell them to sell their underwater houses. I don't know. But I think that it's dangerous that people are thinking that way, that people are afraid of it. And I think that it seems unnatural to me. It seems like something implanted almost in people's psyches. And, I don't want
hmm.
to get conspiracy theory about
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
like, that's how propaganda can manifest, right? That's how certain policy and cultural decisions can manifest in that way and give that outcome. So that's what worries me is that, I feel like as individuals at the level that I'm at, you're probably at a much higher level than me, but like in terms of what I can do, I know it's just like throwing a rock into, the ocean. And so I'm gonna
Well,
continue try to, I'm gonna keep
you're
throwing
trying.
rocks. Yeah, I am. But ultimately, if I want to actually make a difference, right, and an impact, a true impact on this society on a large scale, I think I also have the ability to do that. It's just I don't have the resources to do that. I don't have the backing to do that, right? And
Hmm.
everyone who's making that kind of impact in 2023 has some kind of backing. Just like you were talking about, the billionaires, this and that, or
Yeah.
their Yale buddies or whatever it is, right? Or the tech people who I worked with or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking about that lately. And, we were talking about the fact that there's all these think tanks and where the money's coming from, et cetera. And I was thinking about, well, okay, what is the equivalent of that? And I don't even really want to say on the left or the politics. Let's just say on the, what is the if people want to, where are the funding sources for people who want to make a positive change in the world? Let's put it that way.
George
And
Soros.
um, right, and and it's interesting because um, in the past, a lot of the funding for democratic causes, Democratic Party causes, were unions, right? And um, now we're seeing a lot more crowdfunding of politicians, at least, right? A lot of the politicians, and yeah, they get some money from corporations and so on that either just are playing both sides or that have some sort of reason for wanting to support democratic agenda. But I think this idea of crowdfunding is has promise in terms of creating organizations that are mission based, because the problem is a lot of the mission based organizations that do a lot of great work, whether it be the Gates Foundation or whoever that do good stuff, a lot of those um, come from an individual that had their own particular idea around. There's whether it's the Knight Foundation or the Gates Foundation. At least that was kind of like two people. But and I think that those organizations oftentimes um, really have kind of this. They're not going out and trying to raise funds from so much from like 20 somethings or 30 somethings or young professionals or whatever. So I've thought about like, yeah, it would be interesting to use a combination of digital media outreach and for education and for the kind of things that you're doing, but then also having a nonprofit and and collecting and crowdsourcing the funding. And one of the nice things about crowdsourcing funding is that I've created a nonprofit before that was, I think, for or co-founded an organization called the Redium Foundation, and it is still around redium.org if anyone's interested. It's a foundation focused on making free and open source technology for ebooks, um, ebook reading, ebook servers, etc. And one of the things I experienced from that is that funding from large donors always comes with strings attached, right? They have their own agenda, they have their own ideas, and so on and so forth. Crowdfunding is kind of cool. And it's kind of what, in a way, a bunch of Republicans are now doing. Like Trump, you think he's crowdfunding? Oh, yes, he is. Right. And that's money that comes with no strings attached.
Thanks for watching. For access to the full length conversation and all of the 2 hour long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support and see you next time.